Hey, this, and I'm trying to record on my X QuickTime Player audio recording now, and just to see how it turns out. But I'll probably stick with Actuary most likely because you can export to QuickTime more easier. But anyways, just wanted to get a few things off my chest. One of which was Mr. Bit. I don't know who said, but somebody kept saying, "Oh, when Leopard came out, they're like, oh, Apple needs lesser features, less." And now that Snow Leopard came out, what did they say? Oh, it needs more features, more features. Which I just roll up my eyes and it's like, dude, you're contradicting yourself here, big time. But anyways, also wanted to discuss about Zool and that whole memory using um, easier math crap. Um, Now, I don't know all the binaries behind it, and I'm not going to pretend I do because I don't. But I do know this. I was talking to a friend who's a big time WoW player, and he said something that was somewhat shocking to me, and that was the simple fact that there's a new extension pack apparently coming out for WoW, yet another one, I guess. And what's happening is that they're taking all the math that's in there and throwing it out the window. Oh, not all of it, but half or most of the good math portion. So, if Apple's the only one doing this, you might want to talk to Blizzard about this too, Zul, because apparently they're cutting down to a more simplified math as well. Uh, I You can go search it on the internet. WoW cutting out half the math on WoW or something like that. That's all I really know about that. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about Adobe's inability to go to Cocoa, and wanted to stick with Carbon and Carbon this and Carbon that, and being Mr. Bit's main supporter on this or whatever. Well, I find it almost redundant because I've heard this argument before, wanting to keep the old classic environment and wanted to stay, and not wanting to go with Carbon. And the people who were screaming that noise and that nonsense out was, well, you guessed it, Adobe. Adobe was very much against going into the new environment of macOS 10. They didn't really much like it. They refused constantly to go program their application into Carbon, and of course, Mac OS 10 had to come up with the classic environment to run Photoshop on under Mac OS 10 because there was no Carbon version. And Carbon was technically built as a bridge, basically, to allow you to run applications under Mac OS 9, even though it came out in 8.5, I believe. But it was allowed to let you run applications under OS 9 natively, but also run applications under OS 10 natively without having to use Classic or anything, But of course, the older apps, I don't know what the hell they were built under, and to use the old Classic environment. And of course, one of them was Photoshop, because Photoshop, I believe, didn't come out until halfway through iPhoto, or when iPhoto started or halfway through iPhoto's when it was made. And Adobe just says don't go with Mac OS 10, stick with the old system, because this will ruin your company. Of course, it didn't. And eventually, Adobe saw the light, or they were just finally like, with Classic going away, they really needed to keep their program going, and they finally being pulled and dragged halfway through to finally program under Carbon. And what's making this different is that Carbon is technically still in Snow Leopard. It's just an added feature. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up QuickDraw. QuickDraw is no longer around as a developing tool, but it's still there underneath the engine. But it's just dead, basically. It's just an add-on now, and this is what Carbon is becoming. In my honest opinion, it's becoming just an add-on, just an extra little boop. There you go. You can program Carbon, but our developing tools aren't going to help that. That doesn't say that somebody else is going to come up with a third-party application that could program in the Carbon, though. I mean, but anyways, I find it redundant and stupid, and I'm actually glad Apple's dumping Carbon because it just was getting old. And all they did was just throw it out as a developing tool. But like I said, it's not like a third party developer could just pop up some sort of application that could program in the Carbon. I mean, Carbon is just going to be an add-on still, but oh well. And technically, most of the old Carbon still needs to be run under Rosetta. But I mean, I have an old program, Quake 3, and of course it uses Rosetta, but it works perfectly good on my Mac. And it's Carbon, and it needs Rosetta as well. And I don't care about the 64-bit or whatever, but you know, it's just I think it's Apple's made the right decision in that area to dump Carbon finally. But of course, Adobe, just like before, don't want to go to Carbon. I mean, don't want to go to Cocoa. You know, I don't want to go to Carbon, and now all of a sudden, Carbon, they finally go to Carbon. They're like, I don't want to go to Cocoa. I like Carbon better. Make up your mind, Adobe. Seriously, just make it up. Of course, you did call us a bunch of trolls once, but you know, you went kicking and screaming into Carbon, and now you're going kicking and screaming at Cocoa, and you don't want to leave Carbon, which is exactly the same thing you did before. You know, you kicked and screamed when you didn't want to go to Carbon. You caused a lot of people a lot of headaches, and a lot of artists a lot of headaches, and yet you didn't want to switch to Carbon and be part of macOS 10. But now you're saying that Carbon, don't switch to Carbon. Don't, you know, you're going to lose half your developers. The thing is, in my honest opinion, Carbon did its initial work, and its initial work was a bridge application. I mean, was a bridge library, and basically, like I said, it was to allow you to run programs under OS 9 and OS 10 natively. Well, look at it. OS 9 is gone finally, and of course we're now on Intel Macs. So Carbon's main function is long since over. There is really no point to continue it on anymore. Its original functions, why it was developed and created, is no longer there anymore. There's just no more reason to keep it going. Yes, leave it as an add-on. That's nice. I'm fine with that, but why do we have to keep it now? I mean, why is it that we have to keep Carbon? Since its original functionality of being a bridge application between two completely different OSs from each other is no longer there. And of course, it's got some of that original PowerPC programming, but you know, that's long since done with. I mean, until Apple switches to a more rated like chip, which I kind of doubt, or they become more open, which I don't know. I don't know about that area. I just don't see the purpose in Carbon. I seriously don't. And Mr. Bit, I look at it 100 times. Carbon's original purpose of being designed is no longer there. Its only original purpose was just a bridge application. That was it. You know, bridge between OS 9 and OS 10. So to make the conversion going from an old operating system that was showing its age and needed to have its just needed to be put out of its misery, and the new macOS 10. And now we're into macOS 10 under Intel. There's no more Classic. The Classic emulating market is gone. I mean, it's completely erased. I mean, Snow Leopard, I think, is the first one to have the emulation no longer there since it works with under since it doesn't work with the PowerPCs anymore. So, you know, well, I got to cut this short because of the 10 minutes, so thank YouTube for that reason. But see ya.